What's up, everybody? David Ariev, a.k.a. Octane Jesus here with Raid Zero, a.k.a. Phil Roberts, a.k.a. Raid Zero here. Raid Zero just did his amazing talk on basically his first year of getting into Cinema 4D and all of the steps that he took to adopt these new workflows and things like that. And he had this really interesting background of being a creative retoucher for like 9 years before he decided to make the jump into Cinema 4D. And this is a super interesting story to me because he got to the top of his game over the course of 9 years, and then all of a sudden, decided he wanted to be a motion designer. He wasn't as creatively fulfilled by the work. It was getting more technical. So tell us a little bit about that, a little bit about yourself, Raid Zero.
Thanks. So kind of the creative retouching towards the end of my career, just got very much managerial, and I wasn't doing any creative work, and making the jump into cinema was kind of just a creative outcry. So that was, I knew a lot about 3D and Cinema 4D at the time, so it was just the right fit for me at the time. So yeah, I just jumped right in and started doing 2D stuff because I kind of knew what I was doing in that sort of situation. But having the photography background definitely helped kind of speed that process up. Totally. And then kind of the next step was moving into animation and kind of learning, and still learning now how to do that.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
Let me have my mic back. God, can't, no. So it was funny because we were doing the Brograph podcast, and then this guy Raid Zero kept popping up. And it pissed us off because we were like, he just got into Cinema 4D and Octane, and how is his stuff looking this good? So we were like, every time you release something new, we're like, what the hell? Why is Raid Zero so good? This guy just got into it. So, yeah. Don't ask you that. No, that's not even a question. I'm just letting you know. But no, the interesting thing to me is that, so for 9 years you were with this company and you didn't really create this persona for yourself. And I feel like a lot of freelancers, their identity gets wrapped up into a company, right? And they don't put themselves out there, they don't go to networking events, so they don't get very widely known. That doesn't have anything to do with your skill level. You got to the top of your game with Photoshop and all this stuff. But once you decided to, become Raid Zero, you started taking steps to teach yourself outside of just the day-to-day. You're learning this extra stuff. You bought a Razer laptop, right, with a GPU, and now you've custom built your own machine as well. So you've gotten into this more freelancer mindset a year before you even jump freelance, which you now are. Does that have to do you think, with the mentality of this community that's like solo artists that are like these renegade dudes that are like posting on Instagram and just doing things themselves, and they've all got these personas, and it's fun,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I definitely. Okay, I won't. I definitely wanted to separate. So the Phil Roberts side of things is kind of I'm associated with where I was working. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of why I created the whole Raid Zero thing, and it was just my own thing. Nobody else's, nothing to do with the work, where I worked, and so that's why I created that basically. Yeah.
It's really hard. It takes a lot of guts to step off that cliff and become a freelancer, even if you're extremely good. You are, with those retouching skills, you can get retouch freelance work at a much higher rate whenever you want, and you were still on the fence for a really long time about whether you wanted to do it or not. But yeah, are you happy with that decision so far? And it's, I guess you're still you're still at the company a little bit, but
I literally got 2 weeks left when I get back, and then I'm booked for May the 1st, so which is great basically. Awesome. And yeah, it was really scary, and I had a lot of chats with the wife, and what we're going to do if this and this. But ultimately, I kind of very early on, seeing all you guys and how well you're doing in freelance and the kind of work that you're doing, it was that was kind of paving the way for where I was going to end up. So I kind of, for the past few months, just been saving a few pounds here and there, just so I've got a buffer when I start off basically. Yeah.
Well, and it's awesome that you're basically kicking off your freelance career by presenting at NAB not once but twice. So that's pretty badass.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
And I love that your talk was really inspirational to, like, a good half of it was just, inspirational to people just getting in, like why Cinema 4D and Octane 2 are these really easy to pick up tools, and, how they allowed you to make beautiful imagery, pretty quickly right out of the gate.
Yeah, so, like, having a photographic background, like taking imagery that's already been shot in camera and kind of blending them together to make one coherent image, like having that instant feedback, like Octane, as soon as I saw it, it was just like, what? Yeah. Like, because obviously my background in the studio, they use CPU renders and render farms, and it takes hours and hours and hours just to get one image out. So, and they're obviously just sending things to the farm, you have to wait a while for it to come back, and then even when I started getting into it, I was having my laptop at work and showing these guys, and they're just like, I can't believe it. They just couldn't.
They're all jealous because you've got this fast and flexible like Cinema 4D and then Octane. You're like, oh yeah, just do this and blah blah blah, and there it is.
I definitely like how quick and easy it is to learn cinema, and Octane's kind of, I guess, sped up my learning process.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Cool. So talk a little bit about. Let's talk a bit about your talk. I loved just the simple, again, following those simple things that you can do to make shots look so much better. Like with the POV thing, you just rip the head off, right, and put the camera where his head is, and then you've got linear keyframes that would look pretty bad, but then you put a vibrate tag on it, and all of a sudden it looks good. So you're showing these pretty simple things that can just super aid, the look, basically.
Yeah, I think just having that. Following the rules of realism, like that's the kind of thing I'll always start with. So I'll start with a point of realism, and then try and recreate that in whatever I'm doing. So I knew that if I'm having a first-person kind of view, I want to have a more kind of natural camera, and I want to feel the weight of his helmet. If that camera is his eyes. I want the audience to feel like there is an actual helmet on his head, So using the vibrate tag helps you just really quickly just add rotation and a bit of kind of wiggle in the camera movement, and just thinking about how you want your character to kind of move within the scene as well.
Yeah, that weight, when the rocket boosters kick in, thinking, oh, this would kick this dude's head back. Thinking about those physics and how they would affect the camera, that's cinematography stuff, and that's obviously with your background of looking at these images. That I'd say that 50% at least of the picture of developing imagery and making convincing, pretty-looking stuff is your taste. So you've been honing your taste for all these years. So it makes sense why we were so pissed off when you burst out of the gates like a monster. Yeah. Yeah, man. So let's what else? You excited about Octane 4?
Oh yeah, really, really excited. Yeah, just seeing the talks from Jules and him being on the Brograph podcast as well. It being 100 times faster. How is that even possible? And all the things with AI noise, and they're just going to speed everything up even more, and just be able to I've only got 2 GPUs in my machine at the moment. I know, and now it's getting to the point where those frames you're going to just be able to just let them samples go down and down and down, and it's going to clean up and it'll look great.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, why did I invest in all my GPUs if it's just going to be this game engine all of a sudden? And but I mean, it's fine. Especially with the volumetric stuff, I feel like that's going to take longer for them to release the volumetric denoiser. So we'll see. I shouldn't be upset that they're making it so accessible and fast. It really frees us up to art direct even better and focus purely on the art, the composition. Here's another thing I remembered that I wanted to talk to you about. So I thought it was really smart when you were showing your raid city that it wasn't purely Octane scatter. A lot of the time I fall in the trap where, say I build a forest or a city, and then I'm like, cool, I've got this environment, now I want to explore it. And I run around like a little cinematographer and find a cool composition. But that's not thinking about the fact that I could also design a little bit too. So it's kind of like the difference between someone running outside with a camera into a city or a forest and taking pretty pictures and getting all excited, and someone who's like, actually I'm going to build a set So that's more what you were doing there, is like, you're like, okay, this is great for the background buildings and filling out the detail, but to make the composition better, I want my foreground buildings to be the hero buildings and like leave those in there as geometry rather than this random procedural stuff. So I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. So I think that's coming from being on photographic shoots, right, and just kind of directing people where they need to be, and you have background elements and you also have foreground elements that's ultimately what you want to shoot. So I want to be in full control of that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was great talking to you, man, and I'm really excited to see your even more advanced tutorial talk tomorrow. So, yeah, and also always great to see you. I'm so glad you're in town. You came all the way over here. So awesome, and I'm sure you're like still jet lagged and sleep deprived. Yeah, so I'm feeling it, and I'm in the same time zone, so you must be just dying. Cool, man. Great talking to you.